Alright, what's going on everybody, it's Liam here and welcome back to another video on the channel. And in today's video, I want to talk about why I think the school of Myth is hands down the most broken school in PvP. Most players who have done a lot of PvP at higher ranks will typically agree with the sentiment if you ask them. In today's video, I'm going to try and explain all the problems with this school in a calm manner without raging like I typically do in my videos. Number 1, stats and the Rochambeau interactions. So when Rochambeau came out a little over 2 years ago, I think I want to say now, every school got a complete audit to their gambits, their utilities, and obviously their stats. Now, Myth actually benefited a lot from this because in general, Myth is a higher damage school up there with like Stormfire and obviously Myth. So you keep your damage stat and your damage per pip very high. However, when you look at the other stats on their Rochambeau, Myth also gets resist, which is hands down the best stat in PvP. And they also get pierce, which again is also the best stat in PvP. Combine this with the fact of the matter that they also get more health than like a storm and about the same as a fire. Their stats are just king and they rule all of the hitting schools. So that's just simply one reason. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is why it's the best hitting school, aside from the stats we just listed real quick here. Myth is the best hitting school because it simply gets to play its own game. Now, the reason I say this is because Myth, all of the moves they do is proactive and never reactive, okay? So once you have a good understanding of Rochambeau and PvP and how things work, you'll find that I actually don't have to really pack counters for my opponent because my stats and my lethality and my tankability is so high, I can just brute force and out-trade anything they can do. So for example, what you'll see a lot of Myths do is maybe stun block on round 1, and they'll buff every turn, like Blade, Trap, Reliquary Aura, and then the opponent, the only way to debuff them, obviously, is shields or weaknesses, but what do you know when you look at their Rochambeau? Myth counters shields and weaknesses. So if you weakness them, they hit through that weakness with Stone Colossus, and they get extra damage on the overtime. And then if you shield, they simply just click Minotaur, and they just destroy you that way, right? So let's present a situation here where I'm, Stormburst Myth, for example. The Myth blades into a blade, and then a Reliquary, right? I'm about to eat a big hit that could be like a 5,500 damage Ninja Pigs if I don't debuff him. So if I go for a tower, I get Minotaured for 4,000. If I go for a weakness, I get stoned for probably about around 5,000 as well. The debuffs that you can use to debuff Myth actually don't work, and the only other form of mitigation is healing. But the healing over time component doesn't actually work in the game, and it's not effective unless you're a life wizard. Now, this works for a life wizard. Mind you, it doesn't work that well for a life wizard against a Myth, but it works on a life and not a storm or a fire, because life can actually tank out hits, and they have like block and the resist stat tank a bit to wait those extra turns to get those heals in, essentially, right? In general, nobody in the game is running like anything to leverage heal overtimes because they're naturally the worst Rochambeau with blades. Blades and Hots are right now in the meta. So my point is here, you can't buff up like a Myth because you're not a Myth. So their counters work on you. So you'll always lose a trade. If you weakness the Myth, you lose the trade. If you tower against the Myth, or Spirit Shield or Set Shield, you lose the trade. So no matter what you do against this school, you're going to die and you're going to lose. Okay? Now, there's also another component to this, and it's stuns, Medusa and Basilisk. This makes it so when you play a Myth, you absolutely have to stun block or you will lose the game. Right? So for example, again, if we take the Stormburst Myth situation here, if they blade into a Reliquary, right, I have to spend one of my turns stun blocking, or they can send a Medusa or a Basilisk and do literally 3/4 of my health while maintaining tempo, right? So I have to stun block. And let's say I go for a stun block. Okay, well now I'm just open to a big hit like a Ninja Pigs that's doing over half my health. Or like a base Jin which does 3/4 of my health. Right? Because the damage is so high on it. Right? So I think you guys are starting to see the problem with the school, right? There's no way to actually counter a myth. And like I said, they don't even have to pack counters. A good high rank myth player will pack like the meta stuff, like Banshee, obviously, because it's just a very solid move. But the counters don't work on a myth, right? So for example, when I said Blade Reliquary, you might be like, okay, Liam, use a Blade counter, like Banshee, right? That's the meta. But the problem with that is the way the weaknesses work on the Banshee is the myth can Stone Colossus, right? And get the max conditional on their Stone Colossus and still just get an open, good, buffed hit on you that you can't trade back, right? So let's say I Banshee their 2 Myth Blades when they have the Reliquary. They're gonna Stone Colossus me for like 2.5, and the OT is gonna be like 2.2. So that's effectively a 6 pip hit that I passed for, right? Because my move doesn't matter, the Banshee, because the weaknesses get hit through for the hit. So I basically passed and just took 4.4k, roughly. Which just obviously isn't good or productive at all, right? Now, there's other things with this school that are problems, right? We haven't even talked about the traps or the shield gambit or the, fire elf into the Oni. So obviously shield gambit's pretty self-explanatory. These are the best gambits in the whole entire game because of the fact of the matter, you're already packing them because, well, they're just really good packing tri-shields and set shields, right? So you're already packing them, unlike other things like maybe traps, blades, hots, or dots. You might not pack them on other schools, right? So you already packed them, which makes it a free gambit setup. Also, they don't cost any pips, which makes it also a free gambit setup. So oftentimes, what a myth can do is simply shield every turn, and then maybe Reliquary into a hidden bubble, and then bang, you're threatening 11,000 damage that one-shots again, Storm and Fire, and they can't really do very much about it, typically, most of the time. A Fire can kind of counter the shields with Elephant, but if you play a good myth, they can simply play around that and still nuke you with a myth Jin. So, again, it's just a simple case of the shield counters not being good, tri-shields being packed anyways and being spammed, and then you just cannot keep up with the counters. So that's the thing. Then we have traps. Obviously, we see Trap Sack in the meta quite a bit. It's been around for a little over a year now, but only one school can really counter Trap Sack right now, and that's Life. Fire kinda can, Myth kinda can, I guess, if you pack the cards, but it's not reliable on those schools. The only school that really does beat Trap Sack is Life, because Centaur is extremely good. Centaur is good on a Life because you obviously have the stats to hit with it and a tank ability to hit with the Centaur, and the 40 blades are actually usable on the Life. So you can just Centaur over and over until your opponent is literally dead, and they lose tempo every time you do it. So only Life can do that, and no other school has good trap counters right now in the game, unfortunately. So again, Trap Sack, it's a proactive thing, or whatever. You are setting something up, and if your opponent isn't on a good school, or doesn't completely set or have good counters, they will lose because you just want to click the same move over and over. So Trap Sack, you only lose to one school, which is Life. Shield Stack, obviously you just beat everybody with that. And then the dot one, which is like Cyclops, Troll, Basilisk, Divum, and like Fire Elf into like a Myth Oni. Also extremely powerful, especially Basilisk, which is above damage per pip. And like I said earlier on in the video, it's not really counterable when you account for how much damage Myth can do in the meta, right? Myth Rat, also extremely powerful, and Troll, just an absolutely overpowered, ridiculous card, along with Cyclops as well. So essentially what you'll see here, right? Myth can literally play however they want, right? They can shield stack, they can trap stack, and they can use like an elf or, you know, a divam, a cyclops, or a troll, or a bassi, and have success. Or they can simply just, like I said, what I do, blade, and then you either stone colossus half their health away if they weakness, or minotaur half their health away if they tower. Or you just take an open pigs and open Jin, and the damage is too high for the opponent to actually recover. So I hope I explained everything in a good manner. I guess I missed a couple of things like shift, right? Shift allows Myth to counter dots when it's not supposed to counter dots on their Shambo. And there's a bunch of little stuff like that as well with the school. But I hope I explained everything well in this video. If you guys disagree with anything or I missed anything, let me know in the comments below, please. I wanted to make a video like this because it's come to my attention that some people just don't really have a good understanding of the game, including the developers. So I wanted to like kind of break down everything a bit slower in this video. And, you know, I hope it does well. I hope it helps people understand, including the devs, because obviously Myth is just ridiculous in PvP right now. And I'm very curious to see the win rates right now in the current meta. Willing to bet Myth is on top with balance right now. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and sub if you made it this far. And yeah, take care, guys.